Hello, everyone. This is a special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of New Canaan, Connecticut, in the form of a meeting of the Plan of Conservation and Development Subcommittee. Today is Thursday, July 11, 2024. Start by calling roll. Commissioner Benton.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Herring, not here, but probably will join us soon.
Yeah.
Commissioner Nielsen, I believe, is not going to join us today.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Radman.
Here.
Commissioner Turner, I believe, is
Not
not
joining.
joining us, and Commissioner Kriz here. Commissioner Radman, you will be seated for Commissioner Nielsen. Okay. Agenda. First point, discussion of the full plan of conservation and development draft and final edits. I think we'll start with our colleagues from SLR. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again tonight. I'm Robert Collins, for the record, with SLR, and I'm also joined by Julia Fieri, who's here in the with me, and then also online is Taylor Daigle, and then Danny Goodman is going to be joining to listen in on any of the comments that we get. We're excited to be at this juncture of the plan with you all, and we're very appreciative of all the efforts that have gone into this plan, not only from town staff, but also from all of you and all of the public engagement and activities that we've undertaken to get to this point. And then with your review comments that you supplied to us from the draft plan that we gave you a week or so ago. We wanted to start off tonight by just quickly talking about reminding everybody about the schedule and making sure that we're on target with that. And also, if you have any questions about the schedule, we then want to then ask if, about the comments that we received from you. We do have a couple of follow-up questions that our staff, as well as Sarah, would like to discuss, just to get some final input on that. And then at that point, if everybody's comfortable, we'd like to kind of have a discussion about whether the plan is at a substantial completion point and is ready to, from a substantive point of view, and if it's ready to go into the 65-day review period. And then that would be followed after we have that discussion and possible vote. We will then close our discussions with you tonight by then looking at some non-substantive things and looking at the updates that we made to the InDesign version of the plan based on requests previously about lettering styles, photographs, and colors. We just didn't want to do that before the substantive substantial completion vote, which is more focused on the substantive items within the plan. Okay, so with that, the schedule we have up on the screen behind me, and this is the same one that we presented to you at our June 27th meeting. We're at this July 11th meeting. If we find the plan to be substantially complete at this point and ready to go into that, we would probably choose a date next week of when that would actually kick off so that we could get any final comments into the plan tonight and in the next couple of days to get it into Sarah's hands so that she can then present it to the town council, which would be the official kicking off of the 65-day review period. It would also include emailing it or getting it into the to the WestCog as well. Those are the two agencies or entities that have to be officially notified at that first day of the 65-day period. And then obviously that 65-day period would run probably until mid-September, and then after that would be any time would be open for you all to come back together for an official public hearing and then an adoption meeting, where substantive items then could be considered and made any modifications depending on what you've heard from WestCog, from the town council, as well as the general public. Possible that there might be all positive reviews and no comments are suggested, but you certainly, we will provide them with you with Sarah's help to make sure that you're fully aware of all the comments that were received, including the letters of notification from the two main entities. And then at that point, the plan, you would take that into consideration at that September, early October meeting. And then the plan would be officially adopted based on your vote at that point, and then would become effective, I think 30 days later, or approximately 30 days later after the notification to the state. So I know that that is similar to what we've talked about before, but now that we're up to that point, if you have any specific questions about what's going to be happening during this 65-day review period, let me know, or at any point during the 65-day period, we can certainly follow up and answer any questions about the adoption process.
This is the chairman. Typically, what does WestCog say or do in such cases?
They're basically supposed to confirm whether the plan is in fact consistent with the WestCog regional POCD. That's their primary review responsibility. We've made it very easy for them, though, because we have the consistency chapter in the plan. And we've actually, we discuss the WestCog plan and how we're consistent with it. And we even identify some of the strategies that they should specifically look at that will clarify that it's in conformance. But they may have, in addition to probably congratulating you for your effort, they probably will always have maybe make a recommendation. If you were had really kind of stepped out of the bounds of what we know was in their plan, they may send a negative response or say they have some major concern, but most likely it's going to be a positive finding with maybe some slight suggestions.
Do they ever hold public hearings similar to what probably the town council will?
I think each COG is slightly different, but I don't think that they necessarily are required to or necessarily have. I think it's more of a staff review because of the fact that they're making sure that it's just consistent with their plan rather than trying to solicit community feedback.
I was also just reading the statute today, and while it explicitly states that town council can hold public hearings, it doesn't mention that WestCog can. So I wouldn't necessarily be concerned about that.
Yeah, so I would assume like that they don't. More of a staff review.
Okay.
We could check in with them though, just once when Sarah formally transmits it to them, either with a cover letter, explaining like what's happened in your, finding the plan substantially complete and starting the 65-day, we could certainly, maybe add a paragraph to say, if there's, we'll give you a call in a week or so to find out what your process is going to be. And if there's anything else that we can help or assist with in your review.
Commissioners, any questions for SLR?
Okay.
What happens if something during the review period?
Make sure your mic's on.
So say someone during the review period has a requested change. What's the workflow for that?
Well, first of all, let's clarify who you mean by somebody. If it's a general public, are you talking about like the general public? Because
So say it's our first selectman.
okay, well, in your case, the first selectman is outside of the town council, right?
Correct.
So I think in that particular situation, they would be functioning more as like a general, the general public. And
Okay.
so that comment, I think they could write a letter on like what their issues are, although I know Sarah has coordinated this plan, I believe, with them.
Yeah.
Or with her. But they could certainly write a letter as well, because that is that is a unique New Canaan feature. Not all towns have that situation. But that, like anybody else during that review period, like as a general population, they could submit a comment either on, online, which will be, the POCD will be posted during that 65-day period, somewhere between the 65 days and no later than 35 days before the public hearing. And then, there should be a way for people to write comments. So there will be like a link where they could click on, and then they could type a comment to say, I'm in support of this plan, or I'd like to see something different. All those comments are going to be coming to an email, and then we'll help Sarah coordinate them and put them into a table so that you can see all the comments. We'll make sure that they're categorized by subject or by chapter, or how they come in, so you can kind of see what they would be. And we can even kind of indicate whether that's already covered by the plan and it wasn't seen, or whether that would be something that's outside the plan, or this is a recommendation that you might want to consider. I think the first selectman could also submit a letter in that same way, and could be shared with you in that same fashion.
But so that happens after the 65-day period. So it can happen at the adoption hearing, if it's small edits, if it's larger edits, the adoption hearing probably has to get pushed so you can finalize your edits, and then you have the adoption hearing.
Okay, yeah, that was my question, Sarah. So because I'm looking at the timeline and seeing that you have the review period, which is great, ending in say mid-September, and then you have the adoption in October or late September. So I was just thinking that if it's mid-September and adoption in late September, that gives us 2 weeks to kind of filter and take into
Okay.
account all the
You're
comments.
totally in control of the date of when you have your public hearing, so that's a good point to make, is that you just can't have it any sooner than 65 days. But once the 65-day period is up, you can have your like public hearing and then adoption meeting at any point after that. We only scheduled it for like a week or so later, just so that we could, you know, stay on a schedule. But if you do get a lot of comments and you really want to consider them and filter through them, we can work
We
with
can
you
push
to
it, yeah.
then choose a date, you know,
That's
later in
helpful.
October.
I mean, listen, I think it's a great plan, and I think I suspect that it's going to be substantially adopted. I just wanted to understand what the plan was. Should we run into a unexpected protest on certain items that would require additional
Hmm.
Yeah, and I
cycles?
think, you know, to remember at the end of it, we have to consider all comment, but you all are the final say in the
Right.
plan. So just because you receive a comment doesn't necessarily mean it has to be incorporated, you
So
know,
we supersede town council?
you do. So what would
We can.
let's say worst case, town council outright rejected the whole plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission as a whole can still adopt the P O C D. They just need a super majority, which is 2/3 of the commission. So you just need 6 yeses essentially, even if town council rejects the whole plan.
WestCog recommendations, the same thing. They're for your, you know, advising you. I think as a courtesy, most towns usually do address them unless it's something that is really contrary to what their desires are. I haven't seen that. So usually most towns do, if there's a couple recommendations from WestCog or the COG that they do, maybe incorporate them, but you can overlook them.
So this is John Chris again, just to repeat it and take up or expand on Commissioner Herring's query, which I think is an appropriate one. So let's say that the WestCog has some substantive comments they want changed. And the town council also has comments. They could be rejection comments or just, hey, we want to change this, that, and the other thing. The subcommittee would probably have to have maybe 2 special meetings, one to take those, discuss them, incorporate them or not as we see fit, sort of think about it. Then we have a subsequent meeting to finally put a bow on it and approve it, which would then send it to the full Planning and Zoning Commission. And then Chairman Radman, who's head of the Planning and Zoning Commission, would need to probably hold a special meeting. There would be a public meeting receiving further public comment if people so desire. And then we would have a final vote.
I think you may have one extra meeting in there. I think, you know, just one meeting to discuss the proposed comments or not, whether you should incorporate them or not. And then you go to the final public hearing with P and Z. I don't know if you need that middle meeting.
At the end of which we can vote on it.
Yeah.
We may need a second meeting depending on how substantive, but at least one meeting to discuss any feedback we receive and to, we hope, vote on it and then send it to the full Planning and Zoning Commission for another public meeting, more public comment, and then a final vote.
And I did want to ask, during the 65-day review period, you're not considering, we're waiting till the end, right? To consider or to make. any
Right, yeah, we
changes,
wait
right?
until the
It's a
full
pause.
65, like it's a pause, like that's a
Yeah.
good way to look at it. Like anything that's substantive, even if you all have like some new ideas or something that came up, you know, like after you thought about it, you know, write them down, you know, and then remember them. And then when we come back together, I mean, I think most communities, well, most don't have necessarily a subcommittee, so that is a little bit different in your all's case. So we will, you know, figure out whether we want to have a subcommittee and then the formal public hearing, you know, with a full body. And then even at that public hearing, you don't necessarily, to make sure that that's like when people, people already gave you comments through the website,
Yes.
but you may, people may come in that didn't come through or they come in to reiterate their comments that they sent. At that point, I think you would all decide, well, we need to really think about these a little bit more, and we're gonna we're gonna pause, the public hearing is closed, but we're gonna not hold an adoption meeting tonight because we want to think about these a little bit more. And then that's when you would you could add a little bit to your process. That would be different than maybe other communities, but that would still be in your, allowing. But I would, because you have a subcommittee, I think that might be good, right after the 65 days is to plan on having a subcommittee meeting so we can get you a sense of the comments that came in, and then kind of confirm whether we want to then proceed to the public hearing that we had originally scheduled, that we maybe decide on what that date is tonight. But that could still then be continued if there's a lot of comments that come in.
So if I hear it right, at least one more subcommittee meeting to finalize the draft and send it to planning and zoning, and maybe two, depending on the extent and nature of comments we receive or our own changes in views.
Yeah.
If there's, so maybe 2 meetings, and at that point, the ball goes into the court of the full Planning and Zoning Commission to decide.
Right. I mean, I think there's flexibility at that point. I think that's the most important thing that I can say is most communities, or, maybe smaller communities, they don't have a subcommittee. So therefore it just goes to, the public hearing. And then at the public hearing, people speak, but then staff and the consultant also share all the comments that were received. Then you decide at that point, and that would be in front of the full Planning and Zoning Commission of, the town. And
That's
and
what was
your
done in
case.
2014.
Yeah.
And I believe there was a subcommittee then as well, but so the process Robert just described is what was done then.
We could also keep the subcommittee aware, like also once we start to see the comments and how they're coming in through email, we could also be communicating with each other to say, hey, we haven't received any, or we've received 100. So we really do feel that we're going to probably need to have that extra meeting or something like that.
Knowing New
it's hard to
Canaan, I would
predict
bet
that
a
at this point.
paycheck that the town council will hold a public meeting and discussion of this.
Right,
Shocked if they did. I would be surprised if they didn't.
right. And they have
Because
to
they're
do,
very involved, and as you can tell, this is a very involved community, so I would assume that's going to happen.
Yeah, but they only have 65 days to do so and to provide the
True.
feedback to the commission. So that doesn't alter our timeline, whether they
Understood.
do or don't.
So they can do that within the 65 days?
They have to, if they choose to do, and it has to be within the 65 days, but they're not required to hold a public hearing.
So do we have any liaison on the town council to let them know of these timelines and these?
Yeah, I'm going there next week along with Dan and John, and we're explaining all of this to them. then.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So,
They've been, Sarah in particular has been liaising with Chairman Morrow on the town council that, this is coming. And so we'll put that in his hands since he's managing the town council. So he is certainly very aware of this. And this will be on the agenda for next week.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
As feedback comes in, can we see it as it comes in, or do we have to wait till the 65 days before we get
So,
insight?
I mean, I haven't thought about this fully, but I'm assuming we're not going to get like a very high volume of comments. So my anticipation is that we'll just post things on the website the way we do for you all for like special permit applications and everything. So, if I get an email, like we'll probably just post it in our, the same way we always do.
I mean, I think you all are thinking about a lot of good possible scenarios. And I think, what's most important to know is the 65-day review period is the only official thing that we have to focus on, or not focus on, but that we have to follow. But then after that 65-day period, there is flexibility depending on what we get back. And it's really kind of like we've talked about a lot of different scenarios and options, so we know that we have them. But as we get to that point, we will guide you and give you suggestions or find out what you want to do once we kind of know that situation. We have to probably double check the state statute, like on if there is a time frame after the 65 days, like if you have to act within a certain amount, because that hasn't really happened before.
Yeah.
But
I don't believe there is.
because I don't know if like you waited like 90 days, like whether that would negate the original
Yeah.
65 days, but we can double check that. But assuming that that's not the case, you just, you have the flexibility to select that adoption, the public hearing that you're going to have, as well as the adoption meeting. You have the flexibility to figure that out yourself after those 65-day period is up.
Well, please do double check state statutes. I want to ensure that all statutory requirements have been met and continue to be met, which I believe they have been. And I want to ensure that we file it before the end of the calendar year. And
Right.
given that we'd have, approximately 3 months to deal with maybe any things that come up, we have flex time to
Yep.
address those matters.
I just also want to add, we've had a very robust community engagement process. I think you'll all agree with that. So I think the goal of, now that we're really at the end of the road is that we shouldn't, obviously we have to be prepared for all scenarios, but the public has been involved from the get-go. And, at this point, we're hoping that you all are confident in the plan and we're not going to be changing half of it, at the end of the 65-day period. So,
Fair enough.
now's the time to have some confidence in the plan.
A lot of like public comment, and a lot of it has been incorporated. And, we hope that this is seen as as the POCD as a guiding principle plan, so that, hopefully most of those subjects have been captured, but they're not like zoning changes specifically. So hopefully people will view it that way, that it's not, that it's a guiding plan. And so they may really like some things and they may not like some things so much, but.
Unless there are further questions from the commissioners, I thought we might chat about some of the final edits, if that's agreeable with everyone. Okay, I take that as a yes. So
Yeah.
final edits, please.
Yep. Well, there's a couple of follow-up questions that we have for you, and Julia will go through them. But again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to review the plan, the draft plans that we gave you on the 27th, and we got a lot of good final edits from you on that, and we've incorporated all of them. Sarah also, she consolidated them for you and clarified some things. But in her directive and our conversations with her, there was a couple things that we just wanted to have an open conversation with to make sure that we're all on the same page. And that's what we're going to do.
Okay. So right now we're looking at chapter 5, which is about promoting creative and balanced development. And we wanted to discuss a comment from Commissioner Radman. So this is under strategy 2.1.4, which is ensure that new development can be properly supported by existing infrastructure and other town public services, and that effects on environmental resiliency and open space are carefully evaluated. So,
Sorry,
under-
what page are you on?
you might not have the same page as us, but we are on page 3,
Of which chapter? I'm sorry.
chapter 5.
Page 58, 57.
What's this? What's
We're
the
on-
strategy? What's the
Yeah.
strategy number?
It's,
Because we're in the Word document. Sorry, we're not in
Yeah,
the
sorry.
combined.
Chapter 5, promote creative balance and development, goal 2.1. Strategy 2.1.4.
2.1.4.
Bear with me. That's New
Okay.
Canada 2 point.
Yep,
So,
page 57. yeah.
57, hold on, yeah,
thank you.
sorry.
Okay, so this is
Just
action.
gonna screen through it too, hold on.
Page
57.
3, if you have the chapters separately.
I'm doing the 57. Again, please, it's D.
Action D under strategy
2.1.4 on
2.1.4.
the right side.
1.4 D,
Right
thank
there.
you, got it.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
please.
as originally considered, action D was require privately funded infrastructure improvements / mitigation efforts when new private developments are expected to have significant impacts on such infrastructure. And Commissioner Radman had a suggestion of possibly creating an infrastructure fund where new development that is higher density than the existing zone allows would be required to contribute to this fund. So we have we added some text to include that consideration, but we wanted to get the other commissioners' thoughts on the addition.
Yeah, this is something we've talked about as a commission as well. when discussing our 830G applications, and it's been floated with the first selectman, and there, there are obviously a lot of implications to this. Whether the rest of the subcommittee, if you want to include it in here, I think it's a valuable addition. I know that John Goodwin and the Affordable Housing Committee are on board with something like this. Basically, it's a strategy similar to what we did at Jolliffe Mill 10 years ago, right? They wanted to build additional affordable housing, additional units of affordable housing down there, and we negotiated that they would only build 2 units or whatever it was instead of 6. And then there was a monetary contribution to the housing fund here in town. And that money went towards the construction of Millport and probably Canaan Parish to some degree. But it basically went into the town's kitty for building 100% affordable. And I think when we're faced with a situation where an 830G application is coming into the town, where they're basically bypassing our zoning laws and creating additional density on a lot that is zoned for 1 acre, for example, that's fine, but then that's going to have an impact on the infrastructure in that zone of the town because it's been built around a 1 acre zone. So why not have a contribution to an infrastructure fund that would help support sewer infrastructure, fire, go towards the expansion of the schools, whatever it might be. Just a kind of a catch-all. And when I say, it's not per affordable housing unit, it's per unit greater than what is currently zoned for. So taking our, example, 3 units, 3 acres in a 1 acre zone, you could build three single family homes. If you want to build 100 units, you're going to get dinged for 97 of those units.
I think I like this logic, Dan, because I think it prevents sort of the musical chairs aspect of development. And what I mean by that is that if you have, say, 100 lots of 1 acre development and that sewer system is built for 100 lots with a 20% threshold, then the first person that comes along and puts those first 19 incremental units doesn't stress the sewer. But the next person that comes in that builds the 121 to 140 then pushes us over the threshold and they kind of bear the burden of that. Whereas it should, in theory, be that 1.2 ratio should be applied against both developments in a more parity way. Is that a decent example?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then from one thing that I would suggest we think about is just trying not to make it too broad a bucket of infrastructure such that it becomes kind of a slush fund to kind of raid. So I think I hear you on including schools and sewer. I would kind of argue towards a more restrict use and quantification. So for example, like a sewer and electricity fund, just for its sake.
I think the way to narrow it down is to use the state's own guidelines, right?
Okay.
The criteria by which we would either approve or disapprove an 830G application really comes down to health and safety, right?
Could be fire.
So it'd be fire, it would be sewer, it would be police, it would be possibly, but also road infrastructure, right? Are we, because of the development, because of the impact of traffic, are we increasing the storm drainage? Are we adding a stoplight, for example?
Yeah.
All of those things. I think you're right. If we start to go towards like schools and everything else, that's going beyond those bounds that the state's already established for large scale development.
Okay, so we're all for adding that language? into the
Something
plan?
like that,
Okay.
yeah.
I agree. And I think the narrowing is too otherwise.
I agree with the narrowness. I think the infrastructure fund, which is capitalized, is becoming a defined term. We need to, it's a little more precision around it so we know what we're talking about.
Do we have
I
to
think that's your
define
point,
it?
Commissioner.
Because
I guess my point is I don't want it being rated by the Beautification League or by the school or used for kind of pet
But if we,
projects.
if we narrow it down to an infrastructure fund that would contribute towards improvements for the health and safety of the town or of that zone or of that district.
I would I would use the words like capital improvements of the first responder network or capital improvements to sewer
Mhm.
and electrical infrastructure. And the reason I would argue for capital improvements is I wouldn't want it to be used for salary increases or
Yeah.
ad hoc stuff that,
Yep.
'cause I think like on the parking commission, we had a specific like parking fund that was specifically allocated to like repaving parking lots. And,
Mhm.
like, it's fairly narrow. Anyways, I hate to be so nitty. I just hate to see it kind of be rated.
No, I agree. I agree. Put some guardrails on it.
And we definitely want to wordsmith. If we're agreeing on including something, we should, work on the wordsmithing
Mhm.
now.
So do you want it to be a separate action, or is it okay that it's tacked on at the end of D?
I think it's a separate action.
Okay.
I just happened to circle
No,
D
I-
because I was kind of
I agree with this.
highlighting the
I agree with the separate
topic.
action. It's cleaner. How about this? Of an infrastructure fund, parens, to fund, and let's put a list, close parens, and we leave the rest as you've drafted. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I don't think is clear in D is that your point, Dan, about like it being a 1 acre zone and it being developed at a 5 acre density, because I would require privately funded infrastructure improvements, mitigation efforts when new private developments, scoped larger or, proposed larger than existing zoning infrastructure that exists today, or whether, because then you basically highlight, if it's bigger than the current threshold, then it triggers it.
with a density greater than the existing zoning.
Which is why I think it should be separate actions,
Yeah.
just because I think D is important on its own, because I think even ones that meet current zoning should be.
I think
yeah,
you're talking
I agree.
about changing the
D.
text in D
Yeah.
specifically. Kind of
Do you mean
wordsmithing that as well.
D or E though?
D.
The original one.
There are privately
'Cause
funded infrastructure improvements and
'cause
mitigation efforts.
I guess I'm saying then, like, if you change the language in D, you're saying that,
I would say maybe significant incremental impact. Because right now you just are expected to have significant impact, but if you tore down a school and then rebuilt a school, it would still have a significant impact on infrastructure, but it wouldn't be incremental.
I'm okay with incremental as a
Okay.
adjective.
So expected to have significant incremental.
Does this force us to define significant anywhere?
No.
no, it's all up
I
for
think that's why
interpretation.
We want to be a little bit, allow some flexibility, because this is going to be a task that's going to be completed later, and you don't want to box yourself in too much if you don't know.
Yes.
I
exactly
think
what
I
this is
agree.
more of a guideline that will help to inform future zoning regulation amendments as well, which can then get into the nitty gritty.
Because if you have it as consider at some point in time, in the implementation plan, it will indicate when the Planning and Zoning Commission might consider like adding that to the zoning regulations or somewhere else in the town's code. And at that point, you would have to undertake a greater study to figure out exactly what the fund would be, what it would be used for, how it would be collected, things like that. So you want to be careful not to, if you have a pretty clear understanding of where you might want to go with it, you can kind of guide that, but at the same time, you don't want to box yourself in too much in case something changes in 2 years about the way you might be before looking at it.
How about this then? Consider the creation of an infrastructure fund, which would fund, I don't use fund twice, infrastructure improvements and related to first responders, sanitary and storm sewer, and is it traffic lights? Is going to be a better word than that.
Electrical or road, I don't know,
Road improvement.
transportation.
Infrastructure.
Improvements.
Road infrastructure, road improvements.
Mhm.
Is that okay with people?
And road infrastructure, we're ending there.
Sanitary and storm sewer.
And then I think we need to adjust the end now. Which would be
For the creation of an infrastructure fund, which would fund infrastructure improvements related to first responder, sanitary and storm sewer, and road infrastructure.
Like triggered by or applicable to
Uh,
with a fee imposed upon.
Yeah, I would say with a fee imposed upon new developments with greater density than the existing.
We are saying infrastructure also like 3 times there.
Yeah, we can adjust that,
And
yeah.
I know that when we say road infrastructure, I'm wondering if maybe we can just say road improvements.
Road improvements is better. I'd rather not use infrastructure twice, I agree.
Yeah,
I think we say a
Goodness.
fund for infrastructure improvements, which
Yeah.
also simplifies that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend calling it necessarily an infrastructure fund. I understand you want to keep it tight, but first responders are not infrastructure like that. Like, I understand what you're trying to say, but you're saying infrastructure improvements related to first responders. What does that mean?
What it
'Cause I-
means to me is that, let's say there is a very large development in a remote part of town, and the fire chief says, hey, we really can't service this unless we put in a new fire station
see.
nearby.
Right.
I would
Okay.
consider that as
Infrastructure.
infrastructure.
Well, that's where I was going with like the capital. like,
Yes.
Capital expansion versus infrastructure, because I, in my view, like, that would be like a step up of capital investment versus infrastructure
How
investment.
about this
So
for capital improvements,
Instead of
for infrastructure
infrastructure.
improvements, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I like it. It's a little tighter.
that kind of covers all of them.
Should we with densities or just with density? No, that should be plural, with densities greater.
And who approves
Yeah.
that? Is that finance, Board of Finance?
It would have to go through the town council and board of
Board
finance.
of Finance, yeah. That'd be an ordinance, be a tax and.
I think it behooves us to put us in here to kind of push the issue.
Yeah,
It's also just consider. It's not required.
Right.
It's not required.
I'm cool with that.
That's a potential good idea, so.
Okay, we're all agreed on the language?
Yeah, all agreed?
Mhm.
Okay. We're all agreed.
Okay, so our next comment to be discussed is also in chapter 5. And it is under strategy 2.2.1. Implement the recommendations of the town's affordable housing plan. And this is a comment from Commissioner Radman, suggesting an action, which would be continue to pursue amendments to existing 830G to allow non-deed restricted affordable housing units to be counted towards points.
This is under F.
This is a new item I was suggesting.
Okay, after F.
Just as
Okay.
part of our actions, because again, these are not just actions for us as a commission or us as a town. It's more a global perspective on what we're trying to accomplish in town. And 830G is so burdensome on us. And one thing that I know that Tom O'Day's been pushing in the state legislature
Yeah.
and getting shot down every time he tries.
No, I think something got through this legislative session.
It was,
Yeah, let's see the big type. Thank you.
I don't know if it got fully approved. I know it got,
Part of it.
it did?
Yeah.
So it's to allocate certain number of points. Again, with 830G, you don't necessarily get a full point for every unit. Sometimes you get a half a point or a quarter point, depending on the classification of the unit. But this deed restriction component is hurting the point structure for us in every town, right? There are units in this town that fall under the affordable housing criteria in terms of area median income or state median income,
Yeah,
but they're not
yeah.
counted because they're not deed restricted, which is completely stupid
Yeah,
and
naturally
naturally
occurring.
occurring. And they do
Yeah.
exist in this town. I'm sure we have data on it
Yeah.
somewhere,
We do.
but that could probably, we could go from 4% to 7 or 8% probably if we were to start counting all of those units that are not deed restricted.
So I think we were looking just for some clarification on what you were recommending from this action. Are you proposing like that we look at strategies to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing, or are you suggesting that we like continue to lobby to get 830G changed?
I think it's
wasn't
both.
clear.
I think it's both.
Okay,
Not
so
sure how
you're
to.
proposing two actions, sounds like.
Yeah,
So-
is there a way to phrase it so it's a single action?
What I'm seeing here
To
is
protect the
that,
naturally occurring affordable housing by way of continued efforts, at the state legislature level. Something like that.
what could you say, I would continue to pursue improvements to existing, we'd put the section symbol in, and G is lowercase, I think.
Yeah,
Where is that again? To allow non-deed restricted affordable housing units to be counted towards, I think we need to say something other than points. I know where you're going with points, but to be count towards, what is it, Paul, whatever,
Protected affordable units, it wouldn't be, they'd have to be protected.
to be
fall under
counted
that, but-
towards achieving a moratoria, I think is what we're
Yeah,
going
I
for. Is
guess.
that okay?
Mhm.
If you can change that and we can just read it back once more to be sure we're.
Yeah, so I'm creating a new
New
action.
action, okay? Okay, that's a yes.
It's continue to pursue amendments. We're going with that.
Pursue improvements, I would say improvements rather than amendments.
To existing 830G or to 830G. Okay,
You'll put the section symbol in there before too, I guess.
not sure exactly how to do it yet. I'll get back to it, but
I couldn't find that either.
so to to consider non-deed restricted affordable housing, or to count or consider. It's working.
Housing,
Um,
when computing levels of affordable housing in town.
to support moratorium.
How about this? Sorry. How about to count non-deed restricted affordable housing as equivalent to deed restricted affordable housing?
I think we're
that's-
overcomplicating this,
yeah,
honestly.
I think it's too much.
Okay.
Even the continue to pursue improvement parts, to me, it would make more sense to say, work with, state representatives or the legislator to amend 830G to count non-deed restricted affordable housing for heat points or something like that. I think we're,
say to include a greater view of affordable units or something like
Yeah.
that.
Expand the definition.
Because there could be changes even to the deed restrictions that might make it easier or something like
Yeah.
that. So, that would allow, to be open to as many options that might be there, because we just know any options would be good,
Thoughts?
Greater options.
which, there was a little bit of wiggle room this session, but that could be continued to lobby to make sure that it's even greater.
Exactly.
So what language do we want?
Work with state.
work with state representatives to amend 830G to create or to accept
Or allow for
To
greater
allow
flexibility or broader.
a
um,
type of affordability to be counted towards moratoria,
Broader definition of affordability,
broader definition. Yeah.
affordability.
affordability.
To be counted toward moratoria or state affordable housing goals or.
I like that, affordable housing goals.
Yeah.
And moratoria, put them both in. Just in case. You reached the goal, but didn't
And
get a moratorium.
If we want to provide an example, we could say a broader definition of affordability, comma, like naturally occurring
Naturally occurring
affordable
Housing units.
housing units, comma, to be counted.
Such as naturally occurring affordable housing units to be counted toward state affordable housing goals and moratoria. Everyone read that? Everyone okay with this? Okay, I'm getting nods. Okay,
And I'll
we're in agreement. We're in agreement. Good.
symbol in there later.
Let you find the symbol.
Okay, and I believe those were our main comments that we need to discuss in chapter 5.
I had a whole bunch of others, but they were minor.
Yeah, and we've
Incorporated them.
Yeah,
Yep.
or there's might be a few to discuss.
So there were a lot of comments that we're not bringing up just because we thought generally didn't need to be discussed because they
Yeah.
were simple enough. And then
Totally fine.
there were, I would say 2 or 3 comments for you, Dan, and from you, John, that we were not able to address that I was just going to talk to you about offline, about why they weren't specifically incorporated.
Okay.
Some of my main comments were some of the numbers I couldn't quite get to sort out.
Oh, and
I think most of those were addressed. Yeah, yeah.
Like in chapter 2, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get numbers to foot quite, so.
Yeah,
they
so,
were-
yeah, I can go over that a little bit. So the, with the, most of it's around housing units, I believe. So if you recall, we had adjusted the ACS estimates based on permit data to make sure we were accurately representing the housing development that had occurred. So we have that total number that we're using and, but all the ACS, the other ACS data is, you know, it's a percent of the total that was in the ACS. So we've simplified it to not be showing, you know, that ACS total number. So, you know, the percents can still be applicable to the total number that we're presenting as the housing count.
Yeah.
And we also, you know, we've clarified sources and are referring folks to the whole data deck will be appended. So that's really explained in further detail if people are interested or need further understanding. So
One of the other ones was unemployment in the town, where there were 5,000 people employed in the town, which
Mhm.
was,
Seemed high.
yeah, that was my comment. It seemed high. My guess is that it was people employed by companies incorporated in the town, and it wasn't stated. The more I thought about it, I figured that was it.
that is how the data works. So sometimes you'll see, you know, if there's a headquarters, but folks are not all located here, there's
Oh.
not a great way to
Do it.
change that. Yeah, so maybe we can add the explanation.
So
of
looked into that data. It came straight from the town's last fiscal year financial report. So, you know, that was data that the Board of Finance or the
It wasn't
Finance
from the
Department stated.
census?
No, it was stated from the town's own document.
Just seemed, even doing the math on, you know, how many people were employed by the school, how many people employed by the town.
That all came from the town's
Yes,
document.
those weren't, yeah, the
So-
specific
But
employers.
that
was from the
town number of 900 something people, that included school people?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the
then,
double count.
Did add that note
We
to
added that.
clarify.
but,
Yeah, it's not, we don't, yeah, it's not.
but then, I don't know, I'm just have a, knowing how many companies are here in town and knowing the retail base, knowing that the school is the biggest employer, the town is the second biggest employer, and that gets us to 1,000 people. I have a hard time getting from 1,000 to 5,000 being employed in this town.
You add up maybe 1,000, you have 500 probably at Waveney, which is a 24/7.
I don't think
That's a
there's
large number.
500.
Yeah, I don't know how they count
I think
part-time.
it was listed around 500.
Was it?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, there's that in Silver Hill. And then you had the private
There's
schools,
Private schools.
private
Good
schools,
point,
and
yeah.
then you have downtown,
I
and
understand.
that's about it.
Obviously, we want the data to be correct, but if it's already stated in other town documents,
I know.
I think we're splitting hairs a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just couldn't figure it out. It seemed wrong.
We have found in other towns too, with related to employment is sometimes it, you know, what it also, it includes like part-time and seasonal. And sometimes that also goes above and beyond people's like normal thinking, you know, that, you know, you might be surprised at how many people are technically on the employment rolls for a certain company, like maybe a landscape company. When
Yeah.
you think, oh, there's only 2 people there, but they actually have an employee role of like 30 because of the seasonal or part-time people.
But I don't have the situation like saying Bentonville, Arkansas has 2.5 million people working in it simply because Walmart is headquartered there. That would be.
Yeah, there was nothing that stood out like that
Fair
for
enough.
us.
And they are
But,
from,
yeah.
trusted data sources, it's not like, as you know, we didn't go out and, hand count employees and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So,
No, fair enough.
yeah, and I know, that, when you get a chance during the 65-day review period, you can be reviewing the document again and see how we addressed your edits. And then, we can still talk about some of those, and those could come up at the end when we get back into talking about substantive edits if you want some further refinement. But I know that one about the one we were talking about with the number of units, remember we did kind of craft a unique number because we added to a number based on like the permit data. So that's why it was unique. But that is fully explained. And we also tried to make sure that, again, there is the Appendix A, which is the full community profile. Chapter 2 is supposed to be a summary of that. And so while it does say that at the opening, there were other places where we tried to put that in so that the reader, if you ever go back and read like one section, we're continuing to remind people that if you want to look at it in more detail, go to Appendix A, because that's going to have much more of the full picture, because every one of those subjects has a whole individual page with graphics in Appendix A, which is the community profile.
Okay.
Any other edits, please?
We do have one in, the
So-
future land use plan.
Yeah, this is probably the one that will require the most discussion. So I will introduce it and then pass it off to you, Sarah. Okay, and this is a comment from Commissioner Nielsen, and who is not here to relay it. So
What section are we in?
The future land use.
Chapter 8, Future Land Use Plan.
Chapter 8?
Okay.
So this is quite long. I don't know if we want to just
Yeah,
have it up
so I'll
for
just-
folks to read and
I'll
then Sarah can summarize. But yeah.
Discuss. So essentially it's relating to the future land use plan map. So do you want to pull that up? Are you able to do that?
Yes.
She had 2 comments about the existing or the future land use plan. So first and foremost, do most of you have that up on your computers? Are you looking at it? Essentially, all 1 acre zoned lots and larger, we have in the future land use plan listed as low density, single family housing. And she had a comment that anything within half a mile of the train station that was 1, 2, or 4 acres and happened to be on sewer, that it should be counted as high density, single family, just not necessarily for rezoning purposes, just for realistically, when you think about, what type of development there might be in the future, it's going to be on what's connected to sewer. And so I think it's particularly like the Garish Lane. And then I think just that sliver of Weed Street, it's 1 acre zone, but it is connected to water and sewer. So should we just reclassify it to, again, high density, single family instead of low density? So that was idea number 1.
High density being specifically defined as, so we're
How
clear.
it's-
Quarter acre, half acre zone.
how it's described in the,
I don't,
Got it.
that's a huge hot potato. I would not touch that.
okay.
That arrows will fly if we start doing that.
Again, it's still single family. It's
I-
just, okay.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
cautious.
I'd be
I'm doing
very
that.
cautious there.
Okay.
I know what her intent is, and I see where she's going with it. But as you can see, the map, the way it's that half acre, that half mile epicenter from the train station, you can see that on the upper right blow up map, right? You've got naturally occurring higher density housing that already exists further to the east. That
Yeah.
half acre because the epicenter is somewhere on the train station, it's not capturing that. So someone's
Yeah.
gonna argue, well, why isn't the epicenter, a few hundred yards further east, because you'll capture all of that, and then you're capturing less of the 1 acre. It becomes a huge pissing match. I
Okay.
wouldn't go there.
When I look at it, I mean, you look at the high density, it's basically a long rectangle.
Well,
Um,
that's the, is it high density or that's different? That's the
That's the
downtown use.
downtown mixed use, which
Yeah, yeah.
is density and which is also housing, and the circle does not quite match the distribution of what's already there, and then you're essentially changing someone's single family to something else.
Mhm.
So again, this is not zoning. This is just potential future land use of what could happen. And so I just wanted to clarify that point. And again, I mean, we're just pointing out what the radius is for the train station with these circles, and so. Okay,
I mean, we do in the same chapter 8 say high density single family residential consists of currently zoned at 1 1/3 acre. These zones are primarily characterized by small lots and their proximity to the village core. So I feel like if we're following that paragraph's definition, then regardless of whether it's 1 acre or 1/3 acre, it's basically the idea that it's close to the core and on sewer and water.
yeah,
Yeah.
Really has nothing to do with whether it's zoned 1 acre, half acre, commercial.
That's true.
yeah.
Fair point. So Commissioner Revin, you're saying just leave it as it is, if I
Mhm.
understand you correctly, sir.
Mhm.
Commissioner Benton, have a view you'd like to share?
I think I agree with him. There's so many neighbors in this area that would have issues. I would not want that hearing
So your view is leave it as we've stated in the draft as it is now?
as it is now.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, I'm not even gonna go into the second comment then.
Okay.
Um,
So with I mean, just to clarify with what we talked about possibly earlier with like the TDO or the
Yeah.
focused area being explained, do you think we should at least discuss that or?
Yeah, but I think we should go over yeah,
Because I think, just to give a little bit of a preview, when we talked with Sarah about Commissioner Nielsen's, discussions about multifamily, we were realizing that in our original draft that we presented, that the focused area that's shown on the map for the TOD was not really fully clearly called out. And also the multifamily that is sometimes tied with TOD principles was not necessarily as clear, which maybe that would answer her questions without being more specific. So we discussed today, and we wanted to share with you a slight revision to this chapter that would actually be more, supply a little bit bigger of an explanation to the TOD focus area and kind of pull that out from the downtown mixed use discussion.
yeah, so before, the version you had reviewed, in the same chapter, downtown, commercial and mixed use.
Hold on, I gotta get back to that.
just
Sorry.
like one page back,
Yeah.
I think.
This is on the same section?
Yeah, it's in the chapter 8.
Private, I'm not there.
It's
yet.
basis
Downtown, got it. I
83.
was on the wrong page.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is second paragraph. New Canaan has identified.
Yes,
That's the paragraph you are suggesting edits to?
yes, so.
Please.
So the main edit of this is just adding to the last sentence. The transition to a mixed-use downtown is also supported by its proximity to the train station, making downtown an excellent opportunity to explore other TOD, transit-oriented development principles, including vehicular and non-motorized multimodal transportation and parking, and multifamily housing. So that is the substantive addition to that. And then previously we had the discussion of the TOD areas just within this category, but we've separated it. And it's now just discussed separately as a focus area because, as we saw, the radii goes beyond just the downtown and includes some other portions. So we wanted to make sure that was clear that it wasn't just
So in
of
other
permanence
words,
downtown.
okay, go ahead.
Sorry. What you just read is already in this document. What did you change? 'Cause
Uh,
I'm reading the transition to a mixed-use downtown is supported by its proximity to the train station, making downtown excellent opportunity to explore other TOD principles, including vehicular, non-motorized, blah, blah, blah.
Then we
And
got
parking.
rid of the last
Parking
two
and
sentences.
Multifamily.
And so we, so we added in and multifamily.
multifamily.
And then we got rid of
The next
all the
sentence.
rest sentences. And now there's a new section and paragraph talking about the potential TOD,
Yeah.
which is already called out on the map, but wasn't discussed.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it kind of explains that, what's called out in a circle on the future land use plan, and it kind of makes it clear that that's just a focus area that will be, based on the earlier text and the goals and strategies was, a potential focus area.
And just a reminder for everyone why the TOD in particular is, I think, interesting to New Canaan at this time, is the legislature in the most recent session just created a new law or act that states that if you establish a TOD and you permit middle housing, which is 2, 3, and 4 unit developments via site plan or lesser zoning permit, you get Hugh points for your moratorium. So
2, 3, 4 units that are not deed restricted?
correct, market rate. So we're bringing up the TOD just because I think it complements, the affordable housing goals pretty
think that's a
nicely.
great thing.
So that's why we're so focused on TOD right now.
I take the point, and I know that obtaining and continuing to obtain a moratorium is an important issue for the town. I think I'm fair to say that. I just always worried about circles because it includes historic churches, our historic district, well-established, older homes. There's so much within those circles that are.
I don't think it negates the protections that are already in place for those, though.
Let's hope so.
No, I know.
So I'm certainly in favor of getting Hugh points in a reasonable way. And I think it's up to the full commission to decide what a reasonable way is.
So was that passed and approved?
Yep.
So isn't that going back to my earlier statement about modifying 830G, isn't that a really good step towards acknowledging existing naturally occurring 2, 3, or 4 family units?
Existing, no, because it has to be new and because it has to have
But-
been permitted as of right.
Understood, but
Yep, going
it's
forward.
getting there,
To be in a TOD area.
Yeah.
So yes, that is.
which is
you're right.
fine.
Exactly.
right.
So it is a
TOD
step
area.
in the right
It
direction.
is a step in the right
But if
direction.
it's a step in the right direction, because if that's enacted, the natural argument that'll happen once that bill is signed is, well, why the hell are you allowing new construction only when there's naturally occurring, affordable housing units? And that'll go back and forth for 12 years.
Right, and that could be adjusted, and maybe if they get substantially renovated, that could be a way for the town to say,
Maybe.
well, it's a new unit.
Yeah, that's an example of like broadening the definition is.
Yeah.
Well, there have been, I know apartments created, rental apartments with very close to the train station.
Mhm.
When I'm,
But again, that's not middle housing. So like that, while it's good, it doesn't technically relate to the TOD Hugh point thing we're talking about.
for example, let's say you have
Why not?
residential
It can
over
only-
retail, doesn't count.
So
It's
It's
new,
not
it's
clear.
brand new.
it's not clear, but it has to, the way it's written is middle housing, which means duplexes, triplexes, or quadplexes. So if you have a 5-unit apartment building, it does not
Right.
count. And so
It's gonna
if,
be 2,
if
3, or
it's,
4.
Sounds like someone had some developer had a
Lord.
really good lobbyist.
Step in the right direction. That's why everybody wasn't completely celebrating, because it doesn't cover everything, but it is showing some flexibility on their part to allow for more units if it's transit oriented.
and it's not clear if it's over commercial. I don't know. I truly don't know.
Because the commission has approved residential over commercial a number of times.
When you say, I'm sorry to dwell on this.
No,
but
please.
I'm just thinking bigger picture on other applications we have live. When you say duplexes, triplexes, and quads, that is per single development or per single structure? Meaning, could it be a development of duplexes 10 duplexes.
That is a great question that I don't know if the legislators thought about that.
But you
or
could
not.
also be creative on your part by platting each one, like on its separate lot. And so even though if it was, they're all being built as one development, you could say, oh, but they're platted on individual
Yeah.
lots. And so therefore it is only a fourplex rather than a,
You know where I'm going with
Oh,
this.
yeah.
One way to
But-
argue it, they can argue the other way.
they would probably would be okay with it because they're just trying not to have it be high rises or mid rises. That even if it was 4 triplexes, they're still functioning like a traditional triplex.
Mhm.
Well, there've been any number of essentially single-family detached houses that were, there was one house, they tore it down as an older house. And then 2 on the same lot, or 4 on the same lot. There's one, you know, right on Park Avenue, right by the Richmond Hill station, parking lot. As an example, there are 4 there. There are some on Seminary and elsewhere we've approved. I guess those would count, probably.
They're attached.
They're detached.
I don't know if detached would count.
They have to be attached. Some are, I've seen some in
But
town that are
also-
attached and they're nice. They're very nice
Again,
properties.
that was via special permit, which is not as of right. So site plan or zoning permit is as of right. So, you know, you would also have to change your approval process, but
Yeah.
again, how do we feel about TOD generally?
You mean
This
this
language,
thing?
you're fine
Yeah.
with that. We'll worry about the extra.
Can you
details.
just,
Quarter and the half mile, and then there's, you know, a statement saying that you would evaluate which area, focus area would be most suitable, or we might not say which or what TOD focus area. So it may not be exactly the quarter or the half mile. That's really illustrative. But
I'm sorry, my vision sucks. Can you, can you read that paragraph for focus area?
so transit-oriented development focus area. The future land use plan provides New Canaan with 2 options for focused transit-oriented planning and development: a 1/4 mile and a half-mile radius around the New Canaan Metro North Railroad train station. Transit-oriented development refers to the creation of compact, mixed-use communities near transit hubs with ample access to housing, employment, and services. The 8 principles of TOD are walk, cycle, connect, transit, mix, densify, compact, and shift. So that's just to give people a little more background on what we're talking about and the principles. And then future land uses within these focus areas should consider multimodal transportation, mixed-use development, and multifamily housing. Over the next decade, the Planning and Zoning Commission should evaluate which TOD focus area is most suitable for New Canaan. So we can add.
I have some edits on that I would suggest.
Mhm.
I think we want to state explicitly that it's not appropriate for Talmadge Hill, which is in our.
I disagree with that completely.
I do too.
I think that would limit the town.
They don't have sewer, they got water there.
I mean, I know just generally,
We should put sewer there. I mean, like that would be, I mean,
like, we're not mentioning it, so we're not on the hook, but I also don't want to take us off the hook if 9 years from now Darien puts sewer a mile or half a mile away from there. Why wouldn't the town consider it? I mean, also, I think it's still potentially on the table that the Affordable Housing Committee suggests that an affordable housing development goes on the Leaf Pile site.
I've been saying that for years.
Which
There's a leaf
then,
pile, okay, I'll take that. Yeah.
that's what,
that's
1/4
an easy-
mile from, 1/8 of a mile from?
Not even, and you can
Talmadge
do,
Hill?
you could do a sidewalk, you do an easy connector to
Yeah.
Talmadge Hill.
I think we intentionally do not mention the Talmadge Hill train
Okay, I
station.
take your point.
Leave it open-ended.
That's fine.
What about this at the end? It says, over the next decade, the Planning and Zoning Commission should evaluate whether a TOD focus is suitable for New Canaan. It's a little softer.
no.
No, I think,
I mean, come on, we're a train-based community. Like
think-
we are
yeah.
TOD by definition.
yeah, we are. I think everyone accepts that. It's just putting in, identifying the parameters of what that means to us as a TOD.
Yeah, like almost doing like a TOD, more in-depth study of it that would clarify which whether it's a half mile or quarter mile, that ends up being the desire by the community, and then what aspects of the principles of TOD would be followed.
Or what exceptions for, historic or any other protections or existing conditions that you might want to consider.
I did have a related, I apologize, I didn't get this edit to you, but in chapter 7, and it's relates specifically to this, it's chapter 7, 4.2.1, we say increase mobility to key destinations. And I think we could be more specific. What I mean by that, just key destinations such as schools, downtown, and transit hubs.
I think that makes sense.
Schools, oh,
I'm
sorry,
okay with
schools, parks, downtown, and transit hubs.
That's fine.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
'Cause I think people could argue what key destinations are, and maybe there's only one key destination in their mind. So,
I think that makes sense.
because I've been arguing for a sidewalk at Talmadge Hill, and people say, well, why would you want a sidewalk at Talmadge Hill?
I see people walking on that state highway and I just say, good luck to
Scratches
you.
my-
Yeah, good luck.
Well, I mean, there's a good example, like when we did Jelliff Mill, I think we should have had them fund a sidewalk to Talmadge.
Yeah.
Like that would have been a
That would have
play.
been smart. Because there are people that come from Jelliff Mill Complex and from Springwater. They'll walk from Springwater. I knew a couple people that would walk from Springwater all the way to Talmadge.
And the ROE is there, right? Because every parking spot built is like 10, 15 grand. So like if we can build a sidewalk and eliminate the parking, I mean.
Yeah.
So. anyways,
Okay, so all agreed
it's
on.
not hard, that
adding
one.
that. Okay. It's 4.2.1.
4.2.1, policy 1.
And that list was such as schools, parks, downtown, and what was the last one?
Transit hubs.
Transit hubs.
Thank you.
421.
Thanks for
The other
Voice
edit
from
that
the
was. So I saw an action. in
Just
this
making sure she's
particular-
listening.
Yeah, so I saw an action in here that was review development applications for impact on traffic calming, and I felt like it wasn't supported by a policy above. So I thought a policy above could be explore systemic traffic calming for safety across, the town's transportation network.
one moment, just so I can pull it. Are we agreed on chapter 8, or do we want to?
Are we agreed on this language
I
for
am.
that?
Yeah.
I think we're
Agreed?
good.
Okay, good. I agree.
Chapter 7, so you can.
Where?
4.2.1.
741. Wrong one, wrong way.
Oh, sorry, 4742.1.
742.
Huh?
Say again.
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7, Goal 4, Section 2, Strategy 4.2.1.
Improve road and sidewalk infrastructure.
Right.
422, 421. And this is an action
Policy.
policy,
So to create a new policy.
a new policy. We maybe get that up and get some precise wording for that. So Commissioner, what do you suggest for precise wording for this?
Yep, so what I didn't see, I felt like there was a bit of a gap because it says improve road and sidewalk infrastructure, and we don't actually address road infrastructure in the policies that I could see. And then down below in the action, there's something to the effect of B, the action is impact traffic, like explore traffic congestion and identify preferred traffic calming techniques for mitigation. So where I was quick fix, I thought, was explore systemic road safety calming or strategies such as chicanes, speed bumps, signage to support safety throughout town. And then that would basically be a policy that would support the actions that you have below.
I kind of read like an action to me. I don't know.
Say that again?
Like, kind of sounded like an action to me still,
Rather than
less like a
policy.
Me
policy.
too.
Maybe it's something like explore road safety measures to promote, safer transportation.
Yeah, I think like promote safer transportation through road safety
Road
improvements.
safety design.
Is more of a, yeah,
Yeah,
policy.
something like that.
Sounds good.
I like that.
I'd keep it more general.
I like that. It's a policy. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Did I say support?
Yeah. And there is, I mean, like in other places, I know that there is a discussion about complete streets that kind of comes up,
Yeah, I saw that.
which, which is good to have reinforcements in multiple places, but I know that some of that discussion gets into what you're talking about too. In those
What's
locations.
complete streets?
Complete streets policy for the town. I mean, that's like, that's I mean, we define that in the plan, but it's something that, the town the town engineer is working on, like that would basically, there's a whole,
Like a national initiative to, like, I think a good example of a complete street is like one that has a sidewalk, bike lane,
Trees.
trees. So it's,
Like South Ave would be a
there's
complete
like
street.
different types of travel lanes, and then, there's like what they call transects, like, how many lanes it would be, like maybe for vehicles, maybe for transit,
I see.
or for bicycles, but it depends, and it's a policy that is well thought out, that then the town engineer follows for like road improvements and things like that. And you can get grants, to put in the sidewalks that might be missing, or the bike lanes that might be missing, and things like that. But that's something that the town currently doesn't have, but, that is embedded in multiple places in the plan to support the town engineer's efforts to develop a complete streets policy for the town.
I would alter this and say road and pedestrian safety, since pedestrians do crossing streets, and was also mentioned in the plan about the high level of pedestrian-related vehicular issues downtown. So I would include pedestrian as part of it.
Yeah, works
Did I
for me.
agree with you?
Yep, I agree with that.
I don't want to get people hit by vehicles anymore.
I know.
I would try to
No.
keep the numbers down. Yeah.
Any other comments on chapter 7? So we
For
do
me.
have, just right here, we do have Vision Zero as well, which is.
Yeah, no, I like chapter 7 a lot.
Okay.
That was the only, so the other thing I was thinking about is that you have Vision Zero, and you have encouraged New York Canada Public Schools to introduce bike safety curriculum with appropriate age levels. That sounds great. The only thing I was thinking about, and I wasn't sure if this followed was incentives. Just the notion of sometimes what people do is they fund bicycle transportation incentives with the savings from the buses that are the bus transportation costs that are eliminated by the kid biking to school. So if the kid costs $6,000 a year, every kid costs about $6,000 to bike or $6,000 to bus. So if a kid basically agrees to not take the bus, you're not going to give them $6,000, but you might give them something else.
Oh,
So
I don't know if we want to
I don't
get
think we want to be
that.
that specific. I'm just saying that I just like the idea of incentivize. I just think I'm kind of a coin driven person. So
Mhm.
behavior modification pricing.
yeah. I'm not saying we're gonna put in congestion pricing.
Yeah, that'd be a tough sell.
Oh, yeah.
Would be a tough sell.
Taylor, I feel like that might be under like a multimodal, like support multimodal or encourage multimodal. I can't remember exactly where that would fall, but
You have a lot of stuff in 4.2.2.
yeah.
I think there's a fair amount of multimodal in there, including bicycles and bike
Yeah,
lanes,
there's a lot
so
there.
I-
Yeah, that was my only other comment in chapter 8 or chapter 7 rather. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, do we feel like that just, we want to add an action or a policy around incentivizing multimodal transportation.
You could do like a policy that's like support town driven and private development driven incentives to increase multimodal transportation types.
Yeah, that was where I was going, Sarah, so thank you. That's a great way of describing it.
Town would include schools, I assume.
Yeah, I think so. Town.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we okay with adding this, everyone? Silence equals agreement, so, okay. Okay, we're agreed with that as an addition.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna, chapter 7 is all agreed upon. Okay, that was all that we wanted to discuss. So do any of the commissioners have any other comments that they needed to discuss or
Commissioners?
relay to us?
I'm just wondering, is it confusing having the community themes, 4 basic community themes, but the chapters don't reconcile with the theme number kind of thing? You know, it's chapter 4, but it's theme 1, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Is there a way, would it be better to consolidate all those chapters into one chapter that has 4 subsections, for example? So that, you know, when you're like we were describing earlier, go to 4.2, but okay, it's 4.2 in chapter 4?
Yeah,
No, it's
yeah.
not. It's
Yeah.
chapter 7, right?
Do you
So,
want to discuss that when we get to the design side of stuff?
Yeah,
That's
that,
fine.
Yeah.
that would be non-substantive, but you're
Okay.
very, yeah. So I think we can,
Hold that thought for like 2 minutes.
I'll hold the thought.
Maybe this is a stupid question, but like, do we know where the graphs and the different data graphs sit within the chapters? Like I know as the.
No.
Are you looking at the Word docs, right? Or no?
Word doc.
A lot of them are already baked in here up top.
I would look at the full PDF.
On the PDF, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
because that
Yeah,
has
they're in there.
everything. But design comments,
But there's a
just
lot.
wait like 5 minutes.
Okay.
There are quite a few here that say to come, and so I think a lot of those are not just pictures, but
yes.
graphs and so forth.
You have, some of those have been, you know, filled in since we gave you
Some-
this version. So we can show you what we've added.
But the graphs,
We'll do
would
that soon.
the
Like-
graphs would be pullouts from data that's already in the plan somewhere else. So
Yeah,
it's
it would
not
be from
new
the
data,
data.
it's just differently formatted data. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Good.
Yeah, no change in conclusions or anything like that, but we could, yeah. Discuss visuals.
Our agenda, we still had discussion of full POCD draft and final edits. We have the suggestions for edits from SLR, so we've gone through those and decided on those. Commissioners have made some additional suggestions. Are there any other edits anyone would like to suggest?
And again, we could always make edits at the end of the 65-day period if you
True.
forget anything.
Again, I'm looking towards agenda item 2, which is reaching a substantially complete point. Now, again, substantially complete doesn't mean done and dusted. It means we think this is basically a very solid draft.
Mhm.
It's ready for town council. It's ready for WestCog.
Mhm.
You will have at least one, or really 2 further bites of the apple. One, another meeting of this subcommittee, and again, another meeting of the meeting of the full Planning and Zoning Commission that would need to discuss it and ultimately approve it. So, you know, we're not carving this in stone yet, but is it ready for prime time? Are we ready to move on to point 2 in the agenda, unless someone else has some other comments? Okay, I'll take that as agreement. So we will now move on to point 2, which is our agenda, potential vote to determine the plan is substantially complete and to begin the 65-day public comment period, which SLR has already discussed with us earlier in this meeting.
So I
Um,
would just recommend for timing purposes that you start the public comment period on Wednesday, the 17th, which is the day of the town council meeting,
Yep.
and that would end the 65 days on September 20th.
It's good.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in my calendar.
And so then so the logic of that is, since town council does not meet in the month of August, we're covering their July and their September meeting. So if they decide that they want a public hearing and then they also need to discuss it at their September meeting for whatever reason, they have the ability to do so. And then it gives everyone, 3 solid weeks post school starting, public wise, to look at the plan and be
Tune in.
back in town.
Yep.
And then that would mean the earliest, let's say everything went to plan, we got no comments, town council loves the plan. The earliest we could then hold the adoption hearing would be Monday, September 23rd.
So it's to give the, if I understand it correctly, the plan is that way they have, the town council has already scheduled meetings that would provide an opportunity for them to discuss this.
Yep.
Two meetings.
Mhm.
And it means we get the summer off.
I'd also just like to also quickly state that just another reason why the start date wouldn't be until the 16th is because we do have edits that we got from you tonight.
Right.
And we do need to have like that complete, clear document for Sarah before she would send it to the commission or to Westcog. So we do need like 3 days to do that or so.
Is everyone in agreement that if we do come to a conclusion that the plan is substantially complete, that the start date for the 65-day comment period would be next week, Wednesday? We're all okay with that?
I guess just, I said the 17th, I don't know if there are pros or cons of starting it the day we go to town council, and should we start it the day before, so they in theory have the night to take a peek at it beforehand, or?
But I mean, I would argue that you should maybe do it the day after, honestly, because then the town council doesn't feel like they've been.
So the only thing is September 20th is a Friday, so then it's just the 65-day period would then end on a Saturday. So I don't know if that really does anything for anyone, one way or the other.
I mean, I don't feel strongly about it either way.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
fine with-
we'll
I'm
do the
fine with your
17th.
recommendation.
Okay, so we'll do
Yeah.
17th.
Wednesday, okay then?
Keep it simple.
Next week,
Yeah.
Wednesday?
Yep.
Okay, I'll open up for discussion then. What do members of the subcommittee think regarding the plan as we've just discussed it and amended it? Do we believe it's substantially complete, and are we ready to prove it? Exactly
So-
how should we state this?
So we need a motion and a second, and then we'll need a vote to confirm that the plan is substantially complete and that you're ready to begin the 65-day public comment period on July 17th.
Well, that
that's
would
all
need
we
to be
need.
stated in the motion.
Yep.
What she said.
All right, so
Any
that's the
discussion of that?
motion.
Are we, or
I
is there a
just need-
motion on the floor?
Sounds like,
I
Well-
motion to approve.
or that,
Prove that it is,
You want me to state the whole thing
no,
again?
so you're making a motion based on what I just said, correct?
I'm making a motion to, making a motion to confirm that the plan, the current draft of the plan of conservation and development is substantially complete and ready to be published or submitted to the town council and ready to start the 65-day review period
On July 17th.
on July 17th.
okay,
there a
there's a
second?
motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Benton. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, I will call a vote. Commissioner Radman,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Benton,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Herring,
Yes.
Commissioner Chris vote yes, it is unanimous.
Great.
Good, that is agenda item 2. 3, any other business that may come before the subcommittee that's
I think we're gonna talk about the design comments
design
now a little
and
bit.
pictures and all that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah, and sorry, what's the status of the photo competition vote? Has there been a
So-
conclusion?
Have we selected a winner? Is that what we're going with?
I was so insulted that my phone,
It
on
wasn't.
my iPhone, while I'm holding a coffee, was not approved.
But it
was never meant-
a good
That was never meant to be
No, I know,
entered in
I
for
know, I
submission.
know.
But it is a pretty spectacular building.
It is. My understanding, Ms. Carey, is that during the voting period that you stated and we talked about at the
Yeah.
prior meeting, the winner is that.
Yeah.
Is that a correct statement? The bottom is a bit cut off. It has all the people sitting on the lawn. Yeah.
Can we rectify that image a little too?
What do you mean?
If you look at the ground line of where it's illuminated just below the text, it's kind of sloping to the right a little bit. And maybe that is the case, but it bothers me, right? We can take the image and literally just rotate it 2
Up.
degrees to
Counterclockwise?
counterclockwise so that it looks level.
I had not noticed that.
I
Not-
did, but the
What
only,
looks like
I
walls.
did, but the only thing I'd say is the trees will not be straight.
Never notice it.
Okay.
So the trunk, the
I thought someone was gonna say,
is
but
where
the
we're going on
people
that?
won't be standing up straight.
the trunks of the trees are straight up. So tilted, you just gotta look and make sure it doesn't look like it's been altered.
One of the things I like about this is that it just says community. In a key part of our town, which is Waveney Park, it just says community. Festive. That's my take on it.
My first reaction was a little different. I initially thought of like the Apocalypse Now shot.
Oh, the sweet smell of napalm in the morning.
The bomb's bursting in air, right?
Well,
We're
no,
going with
just
it.
the way the smoke was over there, it just reminded me of that Colonel Kilgore. Yeah.
Did you guys go this year?
Yeah.
Did all the smoke come into the crowd?
No, no,
It was okay?
it was like one of the best shows ever because there was
Awesome.
no wind.
Awesome.
I mean, you didn't have shrapnel falling you. Like,
Okay, okay.
So what else on the design side?
So yeah, I think we just wanted to give you a bit of an update on, we did receive some design comments. And the main ones are we've adjusted the colors to be a bit darker.
Thank you.
And the themes now align with, these colors as well. So looks like this now.
Is there a texture to that previous slide? Or like, is there a texture background or was that just a reflection on
To
the?
the table of contents.
In other words, it's a tree.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
Okay.
reflection, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Here we go, and I'll just get to the top. So we've got table of contents. We've added the town logo to the cover page, and then
Did you get one that's high enough res?
is
Can
it
we get one?
vertical? I don't know.
I don't know if we
had-
have
I
yet,
don't
but
know
we
if
can
got a
certainly
better
get
one
that.
than we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Okay,
One.
yeah.
I don't have one, but I'm sure we can get
Yeah.
one. Mine's the worst, so I don't.
Okay.
But
So better resolution logo, we'll work on that, but we did add it to the
and all
cover
of their
to
design,
here.
all of your design comments were sent to them. I just don't think they've addressed them.
That's fine.
yet.
That's totally fine.
You know, quick fixes.
yeah.
But we still have, all your other comments to look at. But yeah, so this is the status. We've added in several photos that Sarah provided us with some additional photos and
That were higher resolution or higher
resolution.
quality.
I like that. That's a nice picture.
So there's a-
That
yeah.
was
So now there's like, rather than to come, like we've been able to insert more pictures because we got more and
Sure.
higher quality. So that at least, which doesn't always have to be what's shared or put online, but in this particular case, we do have most of the pictures in place. So that'll be good.
That's great.
And so this is the New Canaan today, if you want to, see what the graphics are looking like. And population projections.
I like graphs. I was about to say, everyone likes a good graph. I like a good graph.
I mean, obviously once we get the document that, we're going to get to Sarah for the, the town council meeting, that can be immediately shared with you all as well. And then, we'll decide when it's going to be posted on the town's website, but then you can also be taking a closer look at these non-substantive things. And we can have conversations about them, but I guess right now we're just giving you like a quick preview.
Yeah.
And then if there's anything else that you might want to specifically talk about, which,
Yeah, and we can talk about the, the chapter organization now if you want to, or we can save that for later.
I mean, there was some talk, there was some discussion that went into that. I don't know, a while ago too. I mean, plans sometimes go either way, but, we're open to that conversation. I think my understanding though, when we originally talked about that with the subcommittee and then also Sarah, was that because those 4 theme areas were so, they turned out to be extremely important to the community, that we thought that it would be, and especially because there's like a lot of text that goes into it, and then there's a lot of goals and strategies for each one of the elements, that's why it kind of almost warranted its own chapter, because if not, that chapter will be really large. Plus, there was all the pictures that were coming in, and it was more opportunities to have, those pictures, even though there could be sub-chapter divider pages too. We do agree, though, that there is like a separation, like you're not able to match up the chapter number within the theme numbers, but technically the theme number does match up with the goals numbers, or at least the initial number that's in there, because I think it's like, I believe so, isn't that right? Like it's like in goal number, or chapter 4 is theme 1, but the goals all start with 1, right?
Yeah.
So they do line up with
It's
the
just the
theme number.
chapters.
It's just that it doesn't line up with the chapter number. I mean, the only thing I can think of is if we just, they weren't numbered, the
Yeah.
chapters. Like
They
if
were just named,
they
yeah.
were just named or something like that, but we feel that might help, but it just does make there's not a connection between the chapter number and the goal number, or the theme number.
Have other towns that you've worked with on POCDs, have they done that with these community themes?
We have worked on both types, where each theme has its own chapter, or they're combined into one. Usually when they're combined,
I'm talking more globally, the community theme structure of the way you've packaged it. Have you done that for other towns, or has there been a different way to present the information rather than these community themes?
yeah, I mean, yeah, there is the traditional way where you actually kind of have like a housing chapter. Is that what you mean? Like
Yep.
where you would have a housing chapter, a transportation chapter?
Yep.
That was kind of the more traditional way, that because the way the state statutes are written, and they kind of talk about the different subjects that you have to include. I think traditionally, and I think maybe even your current plan, possibly, I'm forgetting, might have that, where you might have a chapter about housing, all the subjects that the state's required. What we have found, and what communities have been, why they've been kind of migrating to this more theme area, is that it kind of helps consolidate that subject. We still make sure that we're checking the boxes, that we're talking about all the subjects that the state wants, but it makes it more like digestible by the general public, because they can relate more to quality of life than they can to like a chapter that's just about transportation.
And yeah, all those topics are related, interrelated, especially as we
Right.
get into these themes. So, but yeah, this is something we sort of decided on early on. So I would not want to, rethink that structure, but yeah,
wondering.
the chapter numbering
you are,
is
yeah.
open for discussion.
Like the easiest fix might be if we want to change the strategy numbers, instead of it being 1.1.1, like you start, if theme 1 is chapter 4, maybe you start strategy 4.1.1, and then have the strategy numbers correspond to the
I
chapter
agree.
number, not the theme number.
Then people might want to know like what happened to, goal 1 or something like that, but
Yeah, I think regardless, there
there's
could be a
problems
question,
there's
it's-
problems either way. You can't win, right? But we could easily do that. But there are still POCDs within the state that are going, that might have 15 chapters, because they go through each one of those. But we had kind of discussed early on that we would, that you all wanted to do a theme style,
Yeah.
which is also a little bit more of the current trend and makes it a little bit more user-friendly, we think, and we found that to be the case.
I agree. If it's 15 for each of the points that the state says, becomes a phone book, and kind of.
Yeah.
And there is so much interconnection between them. It's hard, like if you talk about community facilities in one separate chapter from transportation, but yet there's such a, the infrastructure is really, a common theme.
Okay. Just real quick on 17 before you go forward, can we put the headings underneath the boxes where where it'd be education, health, and retail? I know it's described in the text to the left, but I think everything else has got a label. I think those should as well. Page 17.
Okay, that's sorry. That's the numbers. For
Oh, for the icons, like for the doctor.
It's on the economics page. Go
15%.
down one more.
this one.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted titles here?
Oh, yeah. Yes, good catch. Thank you.
Yeah, because like the next slide is New Canaan, Connecticut average.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
And that might be another, we did, it might be good to kind of just show the community vision chapter, because we kind of noticed this on our own, but that we felt that we kind of reorganized that just a little bit, because we felt that it wasn't clear that everything that was on that page, other than the very top, was part of the vision.
These ones,
Or no, the page right before
page
that.
right before.
19 has a similar issue in my view, like the pie chart.
Mhm.
Doesn't really like, you generally want to highlight like acreage allocation or, because I think that's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, those types of catches are good now, but also that's stuff that you all can like review in more detail too, and we can add at any
Yeah.
point during the 65-day, because it's a non-substantive thing. So,
I see what you're
Feel
saying, a
free-
title to that.
and I know this one, we were having some trouble with the labeling.
Yeah, we're gonna fix that
And
too.
he's probably in the background laughing right now, because he's like, I know.
Yeah.
But the vision chapter 2, we wanted to, we reorganized it a little bit and took away the picture frame, but because we wanted to make sure that that whole statement was clear, that that was the initial vision. And then on the next page, the theme areas that they actually, that's the vision statement for each one of those themes.
Yeah, so we had just combined the who we are and the vision for the future as, the
Because-
vision
'cause
together.
That's like a combined vision, and it wasn't clear
nice.
in the earlier version. And then on the next page, it actually states it more clearly up at the top that these are the community themes with each one of their visions. We just wanted, I mean, we all knew that, but we thought that the public might, when they reviewed this plan, they might not realize that.
I would like to ensure that the a picture of the new improved playhouse is somewhere in the,
Oh, yes.
because it was done sort of just finished very recently, and I think it's
Playhouse and the new library.
yeah, it's a
The library's in there twice at
Oh, is-
least, yeah.
it's a keystone asset for the downtown. I think
See,
it's a-
Tom, it's your
See, Tom, your
picture.
picture's in there. Look,
I want rights.
a little copyright under there.
Which one is your
I like the
picture?
lighting,
Top
it's
right.
nice,
Top
the lighting
right.
is nice,
Playhouse.
and the sky,
Yeah, just like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
now that it's.
And I know
done.
that based on your comments too about the adding something about the mid-century,
Oh,
Um,
yes, we did add that.
and then
as well.
we added that, and then we are changing the pictures around. They're just not shown here, but we're moving the glass house picture to where the picture was on the other page with the fire truck in front of the red school building.
Do you think kids have like sports or school, any pictures of sports or kids or schools?
We took a photo of the,
But yeah.
I don't think it's been put in yet, but we took a photo of like the baseball field at Mead Park to include, but yeah, we've kind of avoided photos with children.
I was curious on that because I noticed the absence of humans.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Yeah.
safer to not
I
include.
was thinking from like the
Looks fun.
rear,
Yeah.
like, so you don't see
Yeah.
faces or like.
We have pickleball though.
Have a field and.
Yeah, like there's no picture of like the sidewalk sale. The previous POCD, we had it was really an aerial. It was probably a guy on like a selfie stick doing a shot of the
Yeah.
sidewalk sale.
Yeah, so I mean, most of the photos right now are just constrained to what the public submitted for the photo contest and what Stephen and I have tried to supplement ourselves. So like if there are anything specifically that you don't see yet in the plan that you
send
want,
it to you.
let us know. And
Yeah, like the Grace
Yeah.
Farms image.
so Grace Farm
have one.
submitted that photo.
It sucks. It's an awful
Okay,
image.
well, that's the one they sent
There's
to us.
so many better shots of that building, and it's so much more impactful than looking at a fence that happens to have a building in the background.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have a nice picture of that.
I'll talk to Susan.
You do have the summer to, take pictures of community events if it's a big crowd shot or something like that,
So there was a
try to,
giant
like,
Waveney event
it's a-
last year for a summer, no, it was a fall festival, Halloween at Waveney. And then we have the Halloween shutting down the street. Christmas, I mean, are there any pictures like that we can put in?
I think those are really important images.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
have.
like we can, it's just I don't have those photos. No one from the public has submitted them. So I mean, if you can tell me who hosted those event, like what entity it was.
Talk to Tucker.
Tucker, okay.
Might have
Yeah.
them,
Talk
yeah.
to Tucker.
But so what are the events
I would,
that you're?
I
that
would
you
look
all are-
at the Christmas stroll, the Halloween stroll, and I'd look at the first annual Waveney Fall Fair. There's great pictures of the hay rides through Waveney. I think I have a
And
handful
Caffeine
of
and
those.
Carbs. There's that.
Caffeine and Carburetor. Well, that's not
There's a-
really a town event. That's more of a
But still,
commercial
it's a
event.
community event.
It's
The
a-
Nature
it's a
Center too, Fall
not-for-profit.
Fair.
That's true.
The Nature
Picture you
Center
have
Fall
on the
Fair.
slide.
Yeah, Nature
Slide
Center.
3 is a good example, I think, or on page
Yeah.
3.
And I think when it comes to, people pictures are always challenging, and you do have to be somewhat careful with them. I mean, obviously, if it includes like the first
That one.
selectmen and then like, or this board or
Public
something like that,
events.
that's some, or like from one of our public events, that's okay. But if it's other from any of these events, I think we want to try to make sure that they're panned back just a little bit. Like I've seen a bunch of good ones when it's like a parade, like a Memorial Day parade, and it's kind of like more focused on the parade, and then you see the people kind of like on the
Yeah.
sides,
That's
you
fine.
know, because,
Good example.
yeah.
Like,
And
because I
so-
think,
Yes, I agree.
because that, like, that, the
Yeah.
people are like 50 feet away. You
Yep,
can
and
see
I-
the people,
yep,
but you can't.
exactly. That's exactly correct. And people pictures are wanted, but they're just the most challenging to find or to get.
And we didn't get a lot. Like this one was submitted by the public, which is why, we wanted to include it. It's
Right.
just-
Pictures
we
you
didn't
can
get a
get
lot.
for us and include. And we do have, we can be adding, we can even change a picture, after, immediately following your adoption if something happens in October. So just be, we have 65 days plus to take some more pictures and to insert. So just be thinking about that when you're out and about. Because you all these events may not be happening like when Sarah and her staff might be able to take them because they're during the day, but in the evenings, if something comes up and you attend it, try to maybe be thinking about taking a picture.
Yeah, I have some good like ones from the Winter Club, and I guess it's not exactly a.
I mean, still, I think what everyone's getting at is that there aren't a lot of photos of people showing community. So I mean,
Correct.
if you have any
No,
good ones,
I-
doesn't even
I-
have to be an event.
I know there's a few, and there's also some on the invites that were sent out to promote these events.
Okay,
We can pick those out. too.
yeah.
And
Christmas tree sale.
New
too.
Canaan, I'm sure, has a stockpile of images from
Yeah.
various events that they
Sure.
publish.
We can get to from the various towns.
Okay.
Yeah, the pictures are great now and they can only, we can only get even better. So it does make the plan very exciting to have such good pictures. And then I think the fact that community members and you all too took pictures that are included, it makes it exciting that it's a community plan.
Yes. Okay,
For now, of course, like as we said, we can make these design comments or receive these design comments throughout the next few months.
Mhm.
And we'll be working on, finalizing and tweaking and making everything look perfect. But any other comments to give us right now on design before we?
commissioners.
I gave you all mine.
I think also I just wanted to mention the implementation plan just real quickly is
Okay.
that, is that now that you've kind of have decided that, that we have all you confirmed that the plan is substantially complete and ready for the review period, we do have like kind of those goals, strategies and actions and policies locked down. So now we can feed them into the implementation table and get that to Sarah so that she can start reviewing that and with you, over the summer.
So is that implementation table in theory wouldn't have any net new verbiage? It would just be kind of a different format, kind of almost like a report card of the actions.
At the table and like it, again, that all the goals and the strategies and actions are put into that table format. So like each page, has the goal and the strategy and then the actions. The actions are the items and the policies are kind of shown there too, but it's the action items that we're going to be showing like who the responsible entity and the time frame. The time frame is usually like short term, medium term, and long term, which is then defined. And then the table part, so we'll populate all of the action steps and all into that. And then what Sarah will be working on, and then, possibly with your assistance too, is like clearly identifying who the responsible entity is, maybe who a partner entities are, and then that time frame.
And confirming with those people.
And
you know,
confirming,
that they're in agreement with the, what's in the plan.
That's like the delegation and accountability.
Right. And then, once the plan is adopted and that's included, that's something that the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to decide at that point is like, do you have yearly check-ins? Do you have every couple years, or do you have a subcommittee? Do you continue on to monitor that implementation table like on a yearly basis or something like that? But that's up to you. Some communities do get really organized with that. Some do not, and maybe it just falls on staff to kind of monitor it and keep you up to date.
Well, much of the implementation is town council, board of selectmen.
Yeah.
Another
could-
board or commission
Yeah.
would have responsibility.
You could potentially prepare, it's not required, but again, you can, I'm just saying that these are some suggestions for you to consider. And we can talk about this too after adoption too, of just, what your approach might be. You could do maybe a yearly report. Maybe you put up items for the town council to consider for funding based on like what you put in your plan. Like please consider funding a complete streets policy process or a TOD, process, or zoning code amendments that are needed based on the POCD. You start filtering them up for them to consider during their budget cycle.
So on agenda item 3, any other business that may come before the subcommittee, we talk about format and pictures. Any other items we should be discussing today?
I think so.
Just the version you sent out before still has a lot of to come. Will you send out a new version before?
Yes.
Yep, that's what
as soon as
we
we're-
mentioned that, we're gonna make the edits, like we've already been making edits, but we now need to make these edits that we talked about tonight. And then we have to get them to Sarah so that she can take them to the town council. And at that point, there
Yep,
will
so-
be a new version and a PDF that can be shared with you then as well.
Okay, so
there
if we
will
have
be
any
like an
UI, we can
interim.
wait until
Yeah,
that new version.
exactly.
And that will be sent to all of us, plus the entire Planning and Zoning Commission, I believe, would receive a copy.
So, I mean, I have not worked out those details yet, but the plan is when we get that, assuming it's Tuesday or, Wednesday when the public comment period starts, it will get posted on the website immediately. And then, some sort of press release will be going out, and then, whether we want to send it to the commission right away, or if we want to introduce it at the meeting on the 30th before we send it to them. So there's no panic. I just have not gotten that far in my
I
thought
would defer
process yet.
to Dan Rabin on how he wants to communicate with the full commission.
I think we just send the chairman a memo saying that we will be sharing the draft with them to give them a heads up that it'll be coming. Town council, right?
Oh, I've already done that.
Oh,
Because
okay.
again, we're going there on Wednesday.
Okay.
So they already have the memo. No, we were talking about sharing with P and Z.
Oh, I'm sorry, with P and Z.
Defer to you on.
Like, do I email it out to them or just wait until the 30th when we meet and just kind of give everyone a heads up on the process?
No, I would email it out to everyone. I don't think
Okay.
there's any
On
harm.
Wednesday, when the
just
town council
FYI.
gets notice,
Okay.
they get
Yeah.
notice.
Wednesday's gonna be busy.
And then
Send it out on,
talk about it on the
Yeah.
30th
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
The website.
Like here's the plan, but we'll talk with you about it on the 30th.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, okay.
I would also, should we also give a notice, well, we'd send it to the chairman of the town council, and then he would share it with other members. We send it to each member of the town council.
No, so I mean, I'll make sure it, I'll be coordinating with Tucker to make sure that it get, because they all have tablets that they get it on the tablets, but I mean, we're going that night, so I don't think issuing a memo to them makes really any sense, since I've already done that probably a month ago.
we need tablets.
I know.
Yeah. Should we also send a note to the 3 selectmen and maybe chairs of other boards and
So,
commissions?
I mean, I'm waiting for feedback from the first selectman if they want if they want me to come to their next meeting to kind of give them an update or not. So I would hold off on
Okay.
sending a memo or not. And then, I mean, going to all other boards and commissions, I don't know if we feel the need to, because again, we will do a press release. So
I would just do the press release. Wouldn't worry about.
First focus is the town council, because
Yes,
that's on the
which
critical path.
I think our bases are covered.
Yeah.
For that.
So just one thing on, if you can go on 26, just to fix the word wrap where you have herein, is it sitting at the top of the page? Doesn't belong up there. If that
Got a
can just
widow?
be Fixed.
What page is that?
26. It's parks and recreational facilities.
Oh, okay, I think that is,
Oh,
it's been fixed in
But
this
you're also
version.
looking at an older version, which I think that's already been fixed.
But yeah, we'll just make a note to make sure that doesn't occur anywhere else.
Otherwise, it's great.
So Commissioners, any other business that may come before the subcommittee? Anything else people want to discuss regarding this? Rollout, so forth. As far as next items, it would be continue to keep up with the feedback we received from town council and the community. And then probably late-ish September, we would have another subcommittee meeting. And maybe one following that, depending on the nature of the feedback we receive.
Agreed.
So I would,
And it would be Dan Radman, you would need to set up a special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to receive public comment, final public comment.
Yeah,
and to
how are we gonna do the
vote.
public
So-
comment side?
so here's what I recommend. Public comment period ends on the 20th. So we have a regular P and Z meeting on the 24th. I think the subcommittee should probably meet that week because again, we're still up against a bit of a deadline to make sure we get this done. So I don't think we want to see this drawn out to too late into October or November. So meeting as soon as possible after the public comment period's over makes sense. And then, I mean, in theory, you could hold a public hearing adoption meeting the first week of October. You know, unless we get earth-shattering feedback, I don't really see a need to have so much time in between.
I don't think
all
there's gonna
these-
be any earth shattering.
I don't envision it either. Personally, I think you could hold an adoption hearing and you may not even necessarily need a subcommittee meeting, but that's me, but.
Is there
We'll cross
anyone-
the
I
bridge when
mean,
we come to it.
It's such a dense document. Is there anyone that's gonna kind of be walking like town council through it? Like so that they actually realize,
Yeah, so I mean, again, we're going there on Wednesday night and I plan to do an overview of the format of the plan and then if they decide to hold a public hearing, I will also be there. I think SLR will probably be there remotely if we have a public hearing, but I mean, so my plan on Wednesday night is I have a whole presentation for them that kind of goes through how the plan was developed, the structure of the plan, explaining the themes and everything. So, I mean, I'm not going line by line, obviously, but I plan to do a decent delve into.
that'll be great. And
What the
if you
plan
have
is.
the implementation plan, which is kind of like a joint engagement plan or a JEP, like that would be a great asset for people to kind of have right in front of them. So yeah, that should do it well. Yeah, there's just so many different lenses to it. I think it's an awesome plan. So
Yep.
I can easily see people kind of glossing over it like, oh, this is not.
Yep.
But it's good to hear you're unpacking it a little.
Trying.
Any other matters to discuss this evening on this?
Nothing in the plan about not having P and Z meetings going past midnight.
Don't look at me.
Is the only,
The Radman rule is still in effect.
is the only version of this going to be digital or physical, or will there be any video version of or anything considering the fact a lot of elderly won't be able to read this? Is there going to be any other format that will be available?
Haven't considered.
Yeah,
that.
no, that hasn't, we've never done that before. I mean, that doesn't mean we can't, but like what, did you have
So-
something in mind?
I just think this is great information, and then some of the more seniors will love to participate in this, but they're gonna have a hard time reading it.
You mean the review process?
Do you mean
during the
like
review
a
period?
physical copy or a large or assistive
So there's
reading
two things.
technology?
There's great AI tools you can use out there.
Yeah.
Synthesia is one where you can it just puts the text in there and you just have you can have the first selectman avatar be the one reading it. But it just, it allows you to have every one of your slides in the background and just have someone there who's just telling the story exactly as you've written it.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I just think there's some value to have more than just a single printable digital format.
Not a bad idea.
You can almost imagine it like as a
I'll have to think
podcast
about
series in that way, like just,
Could do that, yeah.
you know,
Books on tape.
Yeah, chapter by chapter.
here's Sarah Carey on chapter 1.
You're not doing that one? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna use your voice.
Yeah,
in
we
the
use
AI.
your voice. Uh,
That's a really good idea. I mean,
It is.
we'll have to think about how to do that, but I think that is definitely worth putting some thought into.
I know that the town of Cromwell was considering that. I don't know if they have followed forward that their P O C D got adopted back in the springtime. But their Planning and Zoning Commission talked about having like a talking version, I think, which is almost exactly what you're talking about. But it would be like what they posted online, and that there would be like a link. You know, like when somebody was looking at the virtual version and they could maybe click on a link that could be verbal
Read aloud.
statement that was maybe not the whole plan, but maybe,
Oh, could
but it
just
was
be a-
perspective.
Just could be a YouTube slideshow, right? With the
voiceover.
speech in the background and the YouTube video just going through each slide as necessary in
Yeah, so
each chapter.
Sir, you're gonna be doing a summary of this to the board?
I
And you
mean,
can
not
almost
like
take-
line by line,
I know,
but yeah.
That's my point. You can almost take her summary for each slide, and that comes the voiceover to, not with your voice. We can always get some. Can always edit
Brian
it.
Williams. or
Anyone could,
someone?
Yeah.
anyone could be reading.
Anyway, I just think it's interesting because I
Richard
just.
Gere.
I think
Put 'em
it-
there.
Recruit locals.
Mechanical ways.
Anybody
they can
on the
just
board
take
right now on
text
that?
and
Richard
Mechanical
Gere,
voice
I think,
stuff.
is on
Yeah,
it.
I'm not sure how.
We'll see it.
but okay.
No, I mean, we'll think about that.
Okay, okay. I guess Laurence Olivier's dead already, but you know, okay. Age myself.
Get AI to do it in
AI. Do that. AI. Hello. It sounds like one of those scam calls you get, you know? The police are on their way. Okay, okay, I'm moving on.
Gotta have
Okay,
a little
I'm
fun.
moving on to number 4 unless someone objects. Okay, move for number 4, approval of minutes. Has everyone read the minutes?
Yeah. Good.
Any adjustments to the minutes being suggested? Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Second, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, take a vote. Commissioner Radman,
Let's do all in favor.
all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. And meeting adjourned, number 5. Thank you.
Thank you.